So I'm going to talk about Corto. Corto is a project that I've been working on for 4 years. It's an Internet of Things platform for startups. Now, many of you have probably heard about Internet of Things. Now, why is this an issue for startups? Why is this a problem in the first place? Well, with a startup, as you all know, time and money, they're always constrained. You have to get your product out to market really fast, and money is always constrained. Like you have a specific runway and by which you have to deliver a product. Whereas the Internet of Things, you're looking at an $11 trillion opportunity. Now let's think about that number. That's about $1,400 for every person on this planet. But it's a jungle of protocols and technologies. And therefore, if you are a startup and you're with a team of 5 or 6 people, it is very hard to get all that relevant Internet of Things data and get the expertise to get that data into your application. So we started thinking about this. I've been in the IT space for a while. I see this problem a lot. And so I started thinking about a solution for this. And what I came up with was this, basically a platform that can save time because there is a single API for application developers to access all their data. It's basically a uniform API, like a normalizing API almost. You can save money because you don't have to hire rockstar engineers. You can basically hire app developers, front-end developers. They don't need to know your entire stack. They only need to know that one API. And you can leverage existing code. So one thing that is really built into the platform is the idea of a community. And we are very much emphasizing that. We want to enable people to reuse components that other people already built, that are not critical to your value proposition, but essentially infrastructure components. Best thing, it's for free. So Corto is completely open source. The platform is there for download. You can look at our website today and give it a try. Now, I will not look into this, but I'll talk about it later. So I'm going to jump right into the demo, so not to waste any time on the other stuff. So what I'm going to do something ambitious. I'm going to actually create a very small application with Corto, showing how you can build an application by using existing components. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to start up the Corto shell. And this is essentially a sandbox environment in which I can create things on the fly and start experimenting with it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start the admin console. Now we've seen some flashy user interfaces tonight. This one is not nearly as flashy as the other ones, but it's something. So what I did, I just created an admin object in my sandbox, and now I can go here into my browser, and there's my admin console. So here, basically, what I'm seeing is this data, the data that is in Corto at the moment right now. And what this data looks like, and I can browse through this data. There's, it's a hierarchical model, so I can browse through these objects in this database with this admin interface. Now, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to connect data to Corto, and what we're going to build is a very small application that can browse through all the cities in the world and show the weather, the real-time weather of those cities. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to connect a database to Corto, which contains all of these cities. This cities connector. Oh. Don't try to understand what I'm doing. If you have any questions, then of course ask me after the 5 minutes or. So now you have this object in Corto. Let me refresh this here. You see there is a cities object here, and now I can browse through these cities. So I can see, here are all the countries. I can browse through the countries. I can click on one. Let's see, the Netherlands is somewhere here because that's where I'm from. There we go. So I can click on the Netherlands, and here you see all these names of cities that no one can pronounce. So I just click on one. And so here you can see now on the left hand you have the data, like the actual value of a city. So it's basically very basic data. Like you see the name and you see where it's at. Now, that's not enough for me. I actually want to connect something to that. I want to see the weather data of these cities. So what I can do next is I can actually add a different component to this that allows me to get this weather data, which is weather connector. I'll just call it W for now. And now, if I go back to, let's pick another city here. And you see that the weather data right there is showing up. So let's think about this for a second, what we did here. We have 10 seconds for that. So I had 2 components, a city component and a weather component. And because these components were built on Corto, it was very easy to make them interoperate with each other. And that's the idea. You build a community, an ecosystem of components. And when you're starting to build your application, whether it's a Fitbit or whether it's your car or the weather data or anything, you just drag it together and you build your application. And that's it. All right. Any questions?
So can I add my own custom data?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I'm not sure if I should tell you this, but this weather integration was built today within an hour. And so it's very easy to add new data sources to the platform. And actually, the city data comes from a file. So it's just a file on a hard drive. The rest of the weather data is actually being fetched in real time from a weather API. So you can connect basically a lot of things to it.
Is your intention for this to stay an open source product, or do you have a revenue model?
Well, we have both. So I want the platform to be open source because I want to keep the barrier for entry as low as possible. It's all about the ecosystem. Now, we do have a revenue model, and as you've heard before, there's going to be an app store where you can sell and buy these components. Because one of the things that you see with a number of these IoT platforms is they are leveraging open source, which is great. But these open source components, they tend to deteriorate over time. People forget about them. And I think that if you give people an incentive to make money off these components, you get a much healthier ecosystem. So that's the one thing that we want to enable with Corto in the future.
I guess I'm trying to understand, is this a programming interface where people write entire apps, or is this just creating APIs and I still write my app in Ruby or Python or whatever?
Right, so the latter. So we provide different interfaces to work with Corto. Let's read. So for example, the most straightforward here would be a REST API. So here you see this API handle, I can click on it, and that will give me a JSON object, basically the one that we just saw. There is also a C API. Our lead developer right now is working on a Python API. So we are connecting different languages as we speak to Corto so that you can work from the environment of choice. Further questions? All right. Yes.
So how would this work for Internet of Things? Like, would you have your device access some URL that you had built up by connecting components together?
That could be one way, yeah, for sure. One of the other things that I didn't show, suppose that I'm a device, like this application that I just started, that's a device, and I'm a thermometer, right? I want to show temperature, so one of the things that I can do is say, temperature, and then say 10 degrees. Now I created a new object in the store, which is, well, it should be loading. Not sure why it's not. Oh, well, there's a demo effect here. That's too bad. It's alpha. Well, so what I did there, I created an object in the store, then my application crashed. But if it wouldn't have crashed, then I would have actually been able to show you that this data was accessible through the same interface. So, as a device, you can also create new data that other people can then connect to and integrate with.
What makes this unique to IoT?
So the unique thing for IoT, well, a number of things. For one thing, Corto is extremely lightweight, so you can install it on any embedded device. It's about 300 kilobytes, just bare bone. And it provides you with a normalizing API. So if you're in the IoT, you've probably heard about BDS and MQTT and all these different messaging protocols. Now, you have to connect this data into some kind of interface that people can actually use to build applications with. Because you don't want to learn your front-end developers how to build applications with MQTT. So that is why, well, let me phrase it differently. I think the most important thing in the IoT is data, and if you can provide a very easy interface to that data, then I think you have a relevant technology.
Now, how would this be different than something like ThingWorks?
So ThingWorks is how much time do we have? ThingWorks is a dashboard where you can drag and drop different data sources on a hosted infrastructure. What I have here, though, this application that I was running, it's almost like a local browser, like your internet browser, but for IoT data, right? So it's more like a browser for data more than like a full application stack, if that makes sense. We can talk about it afterwards. This is a very constrained answer, but and there's a lot more to say about it. Right.